In general, on this etude, you want to make sure that you have a nice flowing tone and tempo that stays really constant pretty much throughout the entire etude. You want to strive for a lot of legato playing and sustained sound. We don't have too many sudden dips in the dynamic in this. However, there are these long crescendo decrescendos. So you want to make sure that you bring out each of those in a musical way. So really pacing the phrasing is really important in this etude. The next thing that you want to work on in this is making sure that you have all the subdivisions really well placed inside your body and in your head when you're playing this. Let's take a look at the first line. Here we have dotted eighth, 16th, and then we immediately go to quarter and then triplet. Now, you've got to have these different subdivisions ready to go. So we have 4E and a 1, triplet, triplet, triplet. Then on the second full bar, on beat 3, we have to feel 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2. So it really stays consistent as far as triplet, 1 and 1 and 1 E and a. So all those, the pulse stays the same, but the subdivisions change quite quickly. Let's go ahead and put the metronome on, I think I've got it on 54 here. And we're going to feel those subdivisions, but actually play them. So I'm going to play ta 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 D B, triplet, 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 A. So we have 1, 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2. This is from the beginning. 1 and 2. So you see how this works, where we have those subdivisions actually played out. When we put it with the music, then without those subdivisions, you should still hear 3 E and a 1, triplet, triplet, 1 and 2 and 1. Here it is, 2 and 2. Okay, a lot of people are going to have a tendency to double dot the dotted 8th, 16th rhythm. So it's not supposed to be, that's double dotting. So you want to have 4 E or 3 E and a 1. Okay, so you just make sure that it's not a triplet and it's not being double dotted in there. Same thing with the dotted quarter note. So that we differentiate which subdivision you're using and being really specific about the rhythm here. For those of you who are having trouble with the cadenza that happens after that high F, the fermata on the high F, you want to break this down into smaller chunks so that you can get it really smooth and flowing. When you play it, start on that D that's after the high F and go down to the next D and think of it as 1 E and a 2. So your fingers go da 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 da. If you need to, you can tongue it. Of course, that's just for practice. And then you try and get it really smooth, accurate with the fingers. If the fingers don't know the rhythm, it's not going to work. You've got to get the rhythm in the fingers. And then we do the next one, D to D. Pushing all the way the tone to the bottom. If you're wondering about that low register tone, I did a video on low register tone, so that you can get a big, nice sound down there. You can take a look at that if you're worried about that. But we're doing 1 E and a 2. And then the same thing coming up from that low D. And then we have the last 3 notes. You notice that I'm always going 1 E and a 2 to the next downbeat. So we go from D to D. Da 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 D, D da 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 D, low D, right? Low D da da middle, da da da, to finish it out on that G sharp, okay? Once you get that really smooth, those individual little chunks smooth, then you can get it You notice at the beginning of the cadenza, I sort of put fermatas, or I'm sorry, not fermatas, but tenutos above those first couple notes. And then I really rip through those notes, the rest of it. You want to make sure that you hear all the notes, that the judges can hear every single note, and that you don't leave any out. It should not be just a blur of random notes. You should hear good tone on each one of those. The little notes are important. It only sounds virtuosic if you can hear the notes. If you don't hear the notes clearly or it's a bad sound, it's not going to sound virtuosic, and that's what you're going for here. Finally, the last thing that I would say is to make sure that you have a great tone on those high E's and the high F. Those two notes, we have this upwards arpeggio that gets us up to that high note. Use that to your advantage. In both of these cases, this is around the 6th line for that high E. We start on a C. Pull your sound from that C, so we get a really good sound down here. And just keep bringing it all the way up that arpeggio. You want to make sure that when you're ascending, that your lips don't clamp down. You actually have to keep your lips relatively open to let the sound out. A lot of students will keep them or start tightening the embouchure as you go up higher, and it'll sound like this. It's sharp, it's shrill, and it has a lot of air in it. You don't want that. You want to make sure that you let the sound out of the lips. I know it'll feel weird for some of you at first to really let that embouchure be a little bit looser than what you've worked on before, but I promise you, if you work on getting that airstream up higher as you ascend, that airstream should go from straight across to slightly higher above the head joint, so that you have more room for the resonance. Also on that high E, if you want, you can lift that pinky so that you have 1, 2, 1, 2, and then no pinky on the high E. And then that should help you not crack that note. Don't be worried about it. If you're worried about it, take off the pinky, and it's really hard to make that note crack without the pinky on. And then we have the same thing down with that F that has the fermata. You're going to push on that B flat and open up as you go up higher. Really push and open the jaw here. Should feel like a baby carrot's in between your two teeth, your bottom and top teeth, and so that you have space inside your mouth, and really feel it down low, so that you can open up and really give the judges their best tone up there. Finally, the last sort of idea about getting up into this high register is that if you think about when you sit down on a chair, most people, when they sit down on a chair, they don't just sit down and then push themselves up with their feet. We generally push ourselves down, push down with our hands in order to get up out of the chair, right? So in the same thing with flute, we push on those lower notes to get us up higher to the upper notes, okay? You don't have to overdo it with the tone. You know, on that low C, you don't need to do that. Sorry, that's the wrong notes. So that you push on those lower notes to help you get up, really. And if you have strengthened the tone on those lower notes, it should help you get up into the high register with some confidence. At all times, you have to think about great tone. If you're thinking, oh no, I don't want to play those high notes, or oh, my tone's going to be bad up there, it's not going to work. So you've got to keep your tone and your strength all the way throughout so that you have a confident sound at the top.